This job, it's a death wish. I'm in.
Out here, you live and die by your reputation. You want to survive? Know the players.
You're new to this world.
What's your problem?
Come back when you're not.
Jabba, right? Look, don't try anything. I got a whole crew surrounding the... Okay, we're skipping that part.
For about as long as I can remember, it's just been me and Nix. Doing what we have to survive. This job is my one shot at freedom. But if we're gonna pull this off, we need the right crew. And the right ship. Yes! Hang on.
I hire you because you are one of the best hunters in the Outer Rim.
She's more connected than you let on, Celero. Bess is mixed up in something bigger.
The Outer Rim is a dangerous place. Everyone is fighting for their piece of the galaxy. But all I want is to live free. So I'm gonna risk it all. Hold on, Nick!
Feeling town of Hinterberg, Austria, to check out the sights, cut loose in the social scene, and try her hand at monster slaying to score some sweet loot. Dungeons of Hinterberg is what you get when you combine and all wrapped up in a charming package that strikes a chord for those longing for a break. In our extended preview of developer Microbird Games' action RPG, we got to play the early hours of this oddball yet delightfully charming dungeon crawler that tasks you with making the most of your monster-filled vacation in the Austrian Alps. When a mysterious magical force has turned the town of Hinterberg and the surrounding mountains into an actual high fantasy realm filled with mythical monsters and dungeons, the small community becomes a tourist hotspot for thrill seekers and social media influencers. When Luisa's first crack at a dungeon run leads to an unexpected boss battle with the mythical Krampus, she resolves to stick with her vacation and learn the ropes of being an adventurer and citizen of Hinterberg. As Luisa, you spend your slaycation in Hinterberg, getting to know the quirky residents and exploring the surrounding magical zones outside of town. Within a daily schedule, you have to manage Luisa's time while out and about across Hinterberg, which includes getting some quality me time by checking out points of interest while deciding on which dungeons or overworld activities to dive into. Along the way, you'll upgrade Luisa's skills in combat and exploration to make her a more capable adventurer and uncover what led to magical forces seeping into the real world. What immediately jumped out to me was Dungeons of Hinterberg's gorgeous visual style. The vibrant colors and stylized characters all come together to give off a warm and exciting vibe to the adventure. It's very much giving a comic book style aesthetic, and coupled with the cozy vibes and generally exciting exploration, it's a unique take on a dungeon crawler that's all about making the most of your time and enjoying yourself while doing it. An average day for Luisa starts with catching up with friends to learn about current events in town, before spending her afternoon exploring the magical wilderness of Hinterberg, which includes mountainside plains, dense forests, and other bizarre locales infused with magic. To cap off her day of adventuring, Luisa spends her evening bonding with one of the many characters in town, such as the owner of a spell shop or an aloof pop culture journalist not impressed by the magical city, to earn an upgrade or stat bonus. You can turn in for the night or stay up late to watch TV or read a book, but at the cost of lower health for the following day. On the surface, this seems like a strict structure that can put some pressure on your activities, but in practice, it works as an engaging game loop that keeps me focused on what sort of threads I want to follow. Dungeons of Hinterberg keeps a mellow pace, even when you can only do a limited number of daily activities. Moreover, you can revisit social threads and check out areas you may have missed in the following days. And even though it's a dungeon crawler RPG, which carries some expectation of tension and challenge, Hinterberg maintains that vacation vibe throughout, especially when taking on the meat of the experience with the exploration and combat. The starting zone of Dober Kogel is an excellent onboarding that shows off the scope on offer and the inherent quirkiness of seeing a modern community trying to embrace magic. As you explore the zones, you'll be able to fight monsters and engagements that feel inspired by both Nier Automata and The Legend of Zelda, with Louisa being able to dodge attacks, counter with follows, and whip out some powerful spells or combat moves to take out her foes. However, it can be easy to wander into some fights that you're completely outmatched for. While sometimes I felt the slowed pace and somewhat dodgy camera and action added some unintended challenges, I was impressed by how varied the battle mechanics were, and seeing Louisa dish out some truly stunning moves was particularly satisfying. Louisa's versatility also comes into play during the titular dungeons. With 25 bespoke dungeons to explore, each presents unique puzzles and combat encounters that lean into the zone-specific magical spells you'll need to master. Some of these encounters involve some Legend of Zelda-style thinking to resolve, such as using magic bombs to blow up groups of enemies or open passages. It was super fun to see how each dungeon and set-piece event felt unique, leaning into particular skill sets to make it to the end. Dungeons of Hinterberg leans into its quirky setting, especially the cast of characters. Many are either annoyed by the increased attention the town has received, or welcome the opportunities the notoriety brings. One of my favorite moments saw the mayor of Hinterberg tout the community's popularity by announcing the filming of a new streaming series in town and unveiling a Monster Slayer-themed statue, which the residents quickly dunk on for looking ridiculous. What makes Dungeons of Hinterberg such a neat take on a dungeon crawler is that it not only shows a self-awareness of the type of game it is, but it uses that conceit to focus on building up Louisa and her friends within Hinterberg. Exploring the town is an enjoyable and intriguing activity, as the community has so much personality. I often walked around just to hear some of the quirky dialogue and see the sights. It's such a fresh take on a dungeon crawler, and the experience of embracing new horizons in an unfamiliar yet still inviting setting and the friends you make along the way make this such a novel take on a familiar conceit. From my early hours, Dungeons of Hinterberg and its laid-back approach to an action RPG show some great promise, and it could end up being a pleasant surprise for those looking for a decidedly new type of dungeon crawler to dive into. For more on the latest upcoming games ahead of the summer games season, check out our previews of Destiny 2: The Final Shape and The Altars. And of course, for everything else in the world of video games, stick with IGN. Cozy vibes of a Persona-style social sim RPG with the sprawling adventure of The Legend of Zelda.
Blue seas, clear skies, and boundless possibilities. I dare say our destination will soon be in sight.
Enjoying yourself for a change?
Come now. There's no cause for panic. two have a moment to speak further. Look, my friends. Behold the scene of our next great adventure.
You and your adventures. I trust you have not forgotten the true purpose of our voyage?
At last, we are come to the land you call the New World. My home. Tura.
I truly believed that I might end the strife and discrimination that plagued our people across nigh endless years.
A land grotesque as its people. Let us speak of the old vulture's last grasp at power. The tournament for the throne.
So, summing up, our first trial is to slay a monster.
Sounds like we've lost a few candidates already too. Poor bastards went after something too nasty for their headhunt.
A land full of feral humans, with people either running or going mad.
What do we believe in, really?
You lot! Enemy attack!
Hitting us while we're asleep is dirty fighting!
You're in this race to become king, are you?
Not exactly.
I'd treat all tribes equally.
Each ally of a different tribe.
Fascinating.
Fear and anxiety. They always lead the people astray.
This place, it isn't a utopia.
If that's the real world, then it can die alongside you!
I will not let you die in vain.
He'll be sending all traitors to the gallows. Not just us, but any innocent folks he doesn't find use for.
It is a new dawn, and its light shines upon Lord Luis's king.
The race's outcome is beyond your meddling now.
I must clear my head of these fantasies. In the end, clinging to a dream will do me no good.
Knowing all this, I shall claim the ideals you abandoned and finish it in your stead.
our customs. My family burns in the name of unification.
Still a frog in a well, who knows nothing of the sea. The ocean's filled with new ships, but they all come from the same river. Greed. Power. Vengeance.
And you? Will you continue down that river? Or choose another path beyond what we see?
Then we must look for it together. We must learn to trust, rebuild.
And follow the blade.
I said, who do you serve? We are the shadows.
That serve the light.
People don't like you very much, do they? Sent here to the living lands by an emperor who couldn't bother to come himself. To investigate some plague that seems to be corrupting our very souls. You want us to trust you. But the truth is, you scare us. The way you fight. The power you wield. The secrets you keep. You're either here to save us or destroy us. So now that you have all this power, what are you gonna do with it?
In other Souls-like games, players typically wielded weapons like swords or axes, with the grip at the weapon's end during combat.
I really didn't. I thought I was just getting in the boat and then starting it up. I thought we would all leave together. Oh no. Oh no. It turns out that I was signing death warrants, damning them to the clownpocalypse. Oops. But as I sped away on my little outboard, I couldn't help but laugh. They couldn't either. And moments like that, where you've just accidentally left your teammates to die and everyone is laughing about it while trying to escape a group of demented space clowns, are how you know you're having a good time. And for the record, they made it out anyway. Well, Killer Clowns from Outer Space is the latest in the asymmetrical horror multiplayer survival subgenre that you should be. Killer Clowns differentiates itself from the competition in a couple of ways. First, there are just more players. 3 killer clowns and 7 humans, which makes for more exciting and frequent skirmishes than a 1-on-4 game. The humans can also fight back. Crowbars, baseball bats, 2x4s, knives, revolvers, and my personal favorite, shotguns, are scattered around the map and yours for the taking, though you'll have to work around ammo and item durability. And this isn't just a slow the clowns down and run away kind of proposition. You can send these demonic space clowns to the great circus tent in the sky, at least for a little while. Once you knock a clown down, you can either stab him in the nose with a sharp object, or pop it like a balloon with a gun, to knock them right out of their oversized shoes and back to the waiting to respawn screen. The clowns, however, aren't defenseless. They're armed with cotton candy ray guns that can turn you into the biggest cotton candy cocoon you've ever seen, boxing gloves, balloon dogs, a rubber mallet, and so on. The clowns tend to dominate in up-close and personal combat, unless the humans roll up with a shotgun or overpower them with sheer numbers. But the humans are faster, though sprinting is noisy and risks telling the clowns where you are. It makes for some tense, exciting, and strategic combat encounters, especially when you're playing a human. You knock a clown down and your knife breaks before you can pull off the execution, and you're running for your life. Alternatively, you can be beating down a human as a clown and then see his buddy show up with a shotgun and punch your ticket for a one-way trip on the Dead Clown Express, population you. It's really good stuff, and I've seen fights turn on a dime because someone showed up at the right moment, something broke, or someone made a good play. Things escalate further as the match goes on, and the clowns gain abilities like Jump, which allows them to instantaneously jump across the map, and Hypnotic Lure, which, well, lures humans to you. When you absolutely, positively need a human to eat a Mortal Kombat-style clowntality, which can range from launching them into space with your mallet to serving up a heaping helping of pies to their face that kills them instantly, no cotton candy cocoon required, except no substitutes. And, in a particularly nice touch, you can change them on the fly, mid-match. In general, the clowns want to cotton candy the humans up, hang them on clown hooks as, one presumes, a dark offering to some particularly nasty space clown god to speed the arrival of the clownpocalypse. Humans want to avoid that, and escape before the game clock hits 0 and the clownpocalypse long foretold finally happens. But escaping isn't easy. Not only will you need to find the exits on the map, you'll need to find the stuff you need to open them or make them work. Remember that boat I was telling you about earlier? To use it, you'll need to find gas and a spark plug. I also found another barricaded exit over a rickety bridge. To get out, you'll need a strong melee weapon to bust open the barricade and then a key to unlock the gate. What you need for an exit isn't always immediately obvious when you're looking at it though. I was running from a clown and only had the key, so that ended up about as well as you'd expect, but it also never changes for that particular exit. If you know how to do the boat, you'll always know how to do the boat. After a few matches, you'll know how everything works. But even if you're like me and you get cotton candied, hooked, and more or less packed up, that doesn't mean you're out. Your teammates can always rescue you, but if you do buy it, there are little mini games you can play that reward your still living teammates, or you, more on that in a second, with items to help them out. Whether you're playing clown-themed whack-a-mole, shooting baskets, popping balloons, or whatever else, there's always something to do and you're always helping out your team. And then there's the Resurrection Machine, a one-use revive that calls every dead human back from the afterlife for a last-ditch shot at glory. And of course, near the end of the game, new exits, like an ice cream truck that literally crashes through the level, come into play. Both of these things, in fact, did come into play during my play session, so it truly isn't over until it's over. Last-minute comebacks are a thing, for both teams. Clowns are supposed to be funny, and Killer Clowns from Outer Space nails the humor that comes with adapting such an absurd cult classic movie, while also carving out a unique space for itself in the asymmetrical multiplayer genre. I've played Killer Clowns twice now, at PAX East and for this preview event, and I've had a blast with it both times. It's the kind of game I can see myself squatting up for, and it has real potential to stand out in a crowded market. In fact, during our multiplayer session, the fine folks at developer Ilphonic told me they were confident they had made the best Clowns from Space game in human history. And however Killer Clowns shakes out, that's a hard claim to dispute. As for me, I can't wait to get some friends together and survive the clownpocalypse. Next time, I won't leave them standing on a pier, watching me sail into the sunset. Probably. And for everything else in the world of gaming, keep it locked at IGN. Intimately familiar with if you've ever played Dead by Daylight and its myriad imitators. For more, check out our recent previews of Hellblade 2 and The Rogue Prince of Persia.
Okay. Let's do it. What do I think about heroes? Well, we've all seen them, haven't we? Swanning about the place with their disproportionately high cheekbones and comically massive weapons.
Wanker.
Roughing up bandits, because they like to rough up bandits, don't they? Living it up with the common folk every single night. On a day-to-day basis, I'd say the true hero's me, someone who's breaking new ground with fruit, with veg, on the agricultural side of things.
Just look at them!
Not wafting around mythical creatures. And that's what they are. Wafters.
Yeah, well done.
You see, I'm not here to slay legendary beasts. I'm here to conquer the vegetable, not a euphemism. Let's face it, the age of heroes is over. This is the age of innovation. This, if you will, is the age of death. One moment. This is awkward.
Yeah. Oh.
Witness nears the final shape.
It might have been a nightmare.
It's reshaping reality into
to a perfect stillness. I'm done burying my friends.
It's the end of everything. Might as well try to stop it.
One last step. Together. Into the end.
This place.
It's hard to describe. An infection. Festering.
You said it spoke to you.
The witness shows us what it thinks we want. It's a lie.
Lightbearer. Let us lift the weight of suffering. Join us.
Zavala, please, don't do this.
Nobody makes my fate but me.
The chainsword is one of my favourite weapons in all of science fiction. It has the form factor of a medieval longsword, but the blade is made up of dozens of chainsaw teeth that rip and tear into flesh. In a single strike, it captures both the gothic aesthetic and violent excess of Warhammer 40,000. And this weapon is the brutal, snarling heart of the long-awaited Space Marine 2. I recently played an hour of the sequel to what many consider to appears that new developer Saber Interactive definitely understands what made the 2011 original, created by Relic Entertainment, work so well. Space Marine 2 is a shooter melee hybrid that falls somewhere between Gears of War and Doom, a linear third-person campaign filled with intense, gory monster battles. Unlike its predecessor, it appears to be unapologetically straightforward in its pursuit of increasingly bloody encounters against overwhelming odds. The mission I played, aptly named Invasion, had me carve a path of corpses through jungle swamps and concrete bunkers during the early stages of an alien attack. The invading Tyranids arrive in swarms, courtesy of Saber's impressive World War Z engine, which can render 1,000 enemies on screen. A tidal wave of raptor-like Hormagaunts, supported by handfuls of imposing warriors, crash against barricades and buildings. They even clamber over each other to form writhing towers that scale sheer walls. While at range your guns will easily tear these crowds apart, there's simply not enough ammunition in the galaxy to hose them all down before they break through your line of fire. That's where Space Marine 2 switches into melee mode, and the satisfying strikes of its chainsword come into play. Shooting feels sturdy and powerful, but it's in the middle of blood-soaked brawls that Space Marine 2 really comes alive. Saber has put together a well-judged melee system that has depth thanks to combos, parries and dodges, but is still simple enough for you to largely revel in the slaughter. The smaller Hormagaunts are essentially powerless against your strikes. Those that try to leap at your face can be caught mid-air and slammed into the ground for an instant kill, but the sheer number of them means they can gnaw away at your armor. Should they break through, they'll be able to damage your precious health bar, which is primarily replenished with rarely found medical kits. Staying alive in the midst of these hordes then is not quite as easy as it first seems for your 8 feet tall, armor-clad Ultramarine. This is where Space Marine 2's executions come into play. They're a bit like Doom's glory kills. If you can perform a brutal execution move on an enemy, part of your 4-segment armor bar is replenished. The bigger and nastier the enemy, the more armor you regain. And so when fights in my demo began, I instantly sought out the bigger warriors. They're a much more imposing challenge. With arms made of swords, they make for a proper duel. Parries are vital, as is watching out for unblockable attacks that you need to dodge. Performing a good counter or a stun combo opens them up for a point-blank pistol shot to the face. Do enough damage and you can eventually trigger an execution finisher. These are gloriously gory, with the chainsword cutting its way through flesh and bone in a spray of blood that repaints your blue marine red. But the real prize is the replenished armor that keeps you in the fight. And so appears the flow of Space Marine 2. With so few medic packs in the demo mission, I desperately needed to keep my armor topped up. In the latter half of my hands-on, I had just a smidge of health left, and so my survival completely hinged on my ability to keep those executions coming. It altered how I approached each encounter. I'd thin out a crowd with bursts of gunfire and grenades, but ensure plenty of targets remained alive so I could charge into melee and perform those executions. It made the entire second half of the mission a tense battle for survival. My Ultramarine's life quite literally depended on tearing the guts out of disgusting Tyranids. What I'd like to see next is how that melee system scales and evolves with different enemy types. This demo was pulled from the campaign's second mission, and featured just 2 main Tyranid types, plus some exploding poison bugs. But Games Workshop, the company behind the Warhammer 40,000 universe, sells overgaunts and the melee duels with the warriors. They're likely not enough to sustain an entire campaign. My hope is that the story frequently offers new challenges via bigger and stranger Tyranids, such as in different ways. Then I think Space Marine 2 will avoid exhausting itself within a few missions and prove a real blast. While the range to melee combat cycle kept me engaged throughout the demo, the constant love for the 40k universe had me delighted. Saber clearly knows its stuff. Your protagonist, Lieutenant Titus, wears lore-accurate Primaris armor. He fights alongside a regiment of Cadian guardsmen outfitted with lasguns and basilisk cannons pulled straight from the tabletop. The Tyranids are a hive mind, and so killing the more senior warriors stuns surrounding enemies as their synaptic connections are severed. And across just one mission, I used almost every type of modern bolt gun, from the basic rifle to the tactical carbine and the turret-like heavy bolter. Each has a different firing pattern and effective range, which made them distinct despite each using the same explosive ammunition. For more devastating results, I had to play around with a melter gun, which evaporated dozens of Tyranids in a single trigger pull. It made me excited to see how many other wild weapons from the setting are included in the full campaign. Fingers crossed for a Neo-Volkite pistol.
We must focus on taking down the Hive.
Best of all, every weapon I picked up was a good, old-fashioned shooter gun. No stats, no mods, no power levels. You pick them up, pull the trigger, and the alien splatters across the ground. This is definitely a modern iteration of Space Marine thanks to the melee combat, but in this mission at least, the uncomplicated spirit of late 2000s campaigns is loud and clear. I've been waiting for Space Marine 2 for over a decade. For 40k fans, it's a pretty big deal. It's a big deal for Games Workshop too. The latest edition of Tabletop Warhammer 40,000 is also focused on the war between the Space Marines and the Tyranids. This game is at the very centre of the universe, but I think that faith may be rewarded. I really like what I've seen so far. A solid balance between the simple linear shooters of yesteryear and the complex melee fighters of today. An entire campaign of what I played in the demo risks becoming repetitive, but there's an entire universe of weapons, enemies, and concepts to build a varied set of missions around. I hope that's what Saber has done, because as my Primaris lieutenant stomped up a ramp made of 1,000 Tyranid corpses, it was clear that Space Marine 2 has at the very least fully captured the grimdark spirit of the fearless Adeptus Astartes. For more from Space Marine 2, check out the latest trailer, and for everything else from Gamescom 2023, stick with IGN.
It's been a long and winding road leading to the biggest video game of all time, but it's still trust. It's loose in Leonardo, all about GTA.
We are back! The long wait is finally Shadow of the Erdtree, and it's looking absolutely massive. The 3-minute-long trailer is packed with terrifying bosses, dazzling magic, and a whole lot that needs unpacking. So let's jump right into it.
I am Melania, Blade of Miquella.
The biggest mystery posed by Elden Ring's main campaign was what happened to Miquella, the twin brother of Melania, and a demigod cursed to be a child for eternity. In the main game, Miquella was found in Mohg's palace slumbering in a cocoon that was meant to turn him into an adult. During Mohg's boss fight, it's implied that Miquella is dead. However, cut lore dialogue reveals that Miquella is just still asleep. Along with the first Shadow of the Erdtree key art showing Miquella on a spirit steed, it appears the stage is set to uncover the mystery behind this lost family member. The trailer begins with an image of Miquella's cocoon still placed on the altar of Mohg's palace. The corpse-like arm of Miquella is stretched out of the cocoon, seemingly showing that Miquella still hasn't been revived from his slumber. In past From Software games, the DLC is usually accessed directly in the game's world, whether by touching a painting or discovering a secret cave. Miquella's cocoon feels like a very likely entryway into the DLC, and sure enough, director Hidetaka Miyazaki confirmed this to be the case in our new interview with him. A voice at the end of the trailer also asks you to
touch the withered arm and travel to the realm of shadow.
The lore indicates that Miquella's soul may be in the land of dreams, so traveling into his mind may be the gateway to this realm of shadow. It all seems to be the perfect setup to access the new DLC areas.
O Erdtree, you shall burn.
The Erdtree is Elden Ring's most striking landmark, a giant golden tree towering over the lands between. The Erdtree represents the blessing of the Elden Ring, and its glow symbolizes the golden order established by Queen Marika. Depending on which ending of the main campaign players pursue, the Erdtree can look very different, as it represents the current state of the lands between and its ruler. But there is another great tree in Elden Ring. Technically several, but we're not going to get lost in the roots on that. The other great tree, one closely associated with Miquella, is the Halig tree, far in the north of the lands between where Melania resides. We have a suspicion that the tree in the trailer could well be the Halig tree. The Erdtree is based in Leyndell, but that city is not visible in this shot, and the twisted Y shape of the tree more closely resembles the Halig tree, which Miquella tried to grow as a sanctuary away from the Golden Order and the Erdtree. This could explain the DLC's name, Shadow of the Erdtree, perhaps a reference to Miquella's attempts and failure to grow a tree separate from the Erdtree. Whatever the true nature of this tree, it unfortunately appears dead and leaking a golden fluid. It's unclear why the tree is in this state, but we can expect the story of Shadow of the Erdtree to reveal just why it looks so unhealthy and the major impact of its status. While the Land of Dreams has been referenced in Elden Ring, it might not be an alternate dimension at all, but rather the Lands Between's past. From Software often utilizes time travel in its DLC, sending players back in time in the case of Dark Souls' Artorias of the Abyss, as well as the nightmare version of the past in The Old Hunters from Bloodborne. From Software also threw players into the future in Dark Souls 3's The Ring City. If this tendency is true from Elden Ring as well, if the Shadow of the Erdtree is set in the past, it could explain some additional details that appear later on in the trailer. A quick cut to some new characters, presumably and more importantly, some new armor players can potentially find in the DLC. The first is a knight armor vaguely reminiscent of the Carian knight set, with a cape and some kind of sharp crescent accent on top of the helmet. The next character is also in armor, wearing some kind of Roman legion-like set, but with a face-like helmet with a plume on top. Incidentally, many of the armor sets in Elden Ring that feature a plumed helmet motif belong to enemies who serve a particular demigod, like the Gelmir Knight set belonging to soldiers who serve Rykard, and the Godric Knight set. Could this armor belong to adherents of the mysterious demigod who appears later in the trailer? The final two characters are another knight bent over a clay pot and a mysterious masked figure lying in a dark purple flower field.
Of the last queen of Caria, Renala of the Full Moon.
One of the factions in Elden Ring is the Carian royal family, led by Queen Renala and their magical academy of Raya Lucaria. This new character, seated on a throne in an empty hall, certainly bears similarities with Renala, from their pale face to that extravagant outfit. But if our theory that Shadow of the Erdtree is set in the past proves correct, then this figure could even be a young Renala herself. Elden Ring is ultimately a story about a feud between members of a noble family. Given that nobles love portraits of themselves, players can find paintings of these siblings all across Elden Ring, especially in Volcano Manor, where paintings of Rykard and Radahn can be found. We can add another portrait to the mix, this time of an old man seated with his hands on his laps and accompanied by a mysterious cloaked woman. Given that portraits in Elden Ring are reserved for noble or other prominent characters, we can assume that they are key figures in the lands between. If the DLC is set before the events of the main game, this would mean that several of the crumbling structures players encounter in the present-day timeline of Elden Ring could be assumed to be in better condition than the past. Is this imposing fortress what Farum Azula looks like before it crumbles? There are similar architectural elements, such as its heavy blockwork punctured by archways, as well as a vortex above pulling the castle upwards, which we know is where Farum Azula ultimately ends up. A second fire giant boss? That's the only explanation after seeing this latest titan appear in the Shadow of the Erdtree trailer. Players are already familiar with fighting the fire giant, a hulking, massive boss capable of wielding fire. Now it appears we'll have to face some kind of living furnace, which Miyazaki told us is a terrible weapon of war filled with burning corpses. I hope it doesn't throw any of them at us. I don't know what it is, I don't particularly want to find out, but it looks like there will be a brain-sucking enemy in the new Shadow of the Erdtree DLC. An enemy type that follows a rich history of awful creatures like the Mind Flayer in Demon Souls and Brainsucker in Bloodborne.
Mother, wouldst thou truly lordship sanction in one so bereft of light?
If there's a main character in the Shadow of the Erdtree trailer, it's this mysterious long-limbed demigod who Miyazaki confirmed will be called Mesmer. The crimson red hair is a dead giveaway that this character is likely a child of Radagon, but it's a mystery as to whether he's related to Melania and Miquella. This character is likely a child of Radagon, but it's a mystery as to whether he's related to Melania and Miquella through Queen Marika, or Radahn, Rykard, and Ranni through Queen Rennala. This character's snake motif makes me believe he's likely related to Rykard, or perhaps even a younger version of the Lord of Blasphemy himself, before he fed himself to the Great Serpent. Remember, having multiple names in Elden Ring is not such an uncommon thing, particularly for the demigods and nobles. Miyazaki tells IGN that Mesmer is a key figure in the DLC, and he again has this important element of shadow to him, which is a key theme throughout the DLC as well. And then children of Marika, who sat around in these thrones and held the rooms of the Erdtree. Partway through the trailer, we're teased with a variety of new weapons and potential gameplay enhancements, including something that looks like martial arts or some kind of pugilist skill set. There are also large bombs we can throw, as well as a huge repeater crossbow that looks pretty handy if we can get our hands on it. There is also a montage of terrifying looking new enemies, some of whom look like area bosses we can encounter in the wild. The swordswoman in the field could be another jail inhabitant, and there are shots of intimidating boar riders, a scary hippo, and a huge skeleton horseman. Towards the end of the trailer, we see a corpse pull a sword or some kind of fragment out through their skull. Fascinatingly, this character's bones protrude outward, reminiscent of the central section in the Elden Ring rune, and the symbol of Queen Marika's Golden Order. While fighting Mesmer, the player character is shown to grow wings and launch a spear of light. This appears to be the aspect of the Crucible Wing spell that the enemy Crucible Knights can perform, suggesting that it may finally be something players can cast in the DLC.
Dearest Miquella, you must abide alone a while.
The final shot is surely Miquella himself, considering the character's association with gold hair and pale skin. Whatever it is they're doing, the tree, whether that be the Halig tree, the Erdtree, or some other great tree, seems to be in much better shape than it was at the beginning of the trailer, when it looked quite rotted and sick. Is Miquella perhaps responsible for its restoration? We'll find out when Shadow of the Erdtree releases on June 21st. For more on Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, check out IGN's ranking of every From Software Soulsborne DLC. And for everything else, keep it here on IGN.
At last, an open-world game that measures up, literally. Infinity Nikki is the console-ready follow-up to the Miracle Nikki and Shiny Nikki series of dress-up games on mobile from Chinese game publisher Infold. However, it also takes some influence from The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, with ex-Nintendo Breath of the Wild director Kentaro Tominaga as its executive producer. And as I discovered from 3 hours playing a packed new demo on PC, Infinity Nikki blends the best of these two disparate worlds and tucks a ton of surprises under its sparkly belt. As she digs through her attic in search of an outfit for the ball, titular heroine Nikki is thrown headlong into adventure when she finds an enchanted red and purple glittering dress in a wardrobe. Dancing with the dress, it suddenly pulls her and her talking cat-like pet stroke BFF Momo into a fantastical, mysterious realm. There, in the bowels of a crumbling castle, Nikki meets a cursed goddess named Ina the Curator, who grants Nikki with the heart of infinity and all its powers, sending her to Mirrorland and tasking her with reviving all the miracle outfits to save the world from evil. It's like The Wizard of Oz meets Final Fantasy meets Paris Fashion Week, with a healthy sprinkling of Gravity Rush and the never-ending story for good measure. Just like in Breath of the Wild, Infinity Nikki has an impressive sense of scale and varied locations that encourage exploration. The rolling countryside and mountain backdrop of the opening Memorial Mountains location is Hyrule as interpreted by Studio Ghibli, while the village of Florawish is idyllic and alive, drenched in colourful flowers and bustling with NPCs who give Nikki interesting lore updates or side missions. The village's gorgeous European architecture is dotted with collectibles such as blings, the game's currency, and whim stars, essentially skill tree points that reward curious explorers. Dungeons offer more advanced platforming action and fantastical boss creatures, while glowing pink cubes open up Zelda-style shrines, with environmental puzzles and other challenges that grant special rewards when beaten. True to the roots of the Nikki series, the fashion theme permeates Infinity Nikki from shoulder to hem. With her long pink twin tails and her cute feminine style, Nikki is fabulously dressed from the off, and players can unlock a huge variety of outfits. A skill tree allows you to spend whim stars on outfit blueprints, while others can be received from NPCs and side quests or by winning them from a gacha machine. Once you have the blueprints for an outfit, you can craft it, so long as you have the corresponding materials. Some of these outfits give Nikki new abilities, such as a floating jump to cross wide gaps, a glider, similar to Link's, a long range attack to purify enemies, or an angling suit to go fishing. Each of these special outfits can be equipped by a selection wheel or by using keyboard shortcuts. Others are purely cosmetic and can be mixed and matched to your heart's desire. Rich graphics show the detail in each item of clothing right down to the type of material, from delicately patterned translucent silk to chunky wool. Each outfit comes with its own set of animations too. For example, when Nikki changes into the floating outfit, bubbles follow her as she glides gracefully across the screen, adding to the vibe nicely. Enemies, too, are sometimes made from scraps of spare fabric, while all of the crafting materials Nikki collects are used for making clothes, from plants in the shape of buttons to insects in the shape of socks. One outfit lets Nikki brush and trim animals for their fur, enabling stealth movement so that she can sneak up and catch them unaware. As you trim creatures based on cats, dogs and sheep, they roll around in ecstasy, which is so cute. Who's a good little pup? The world of Mirrorland is populated by fashion-conscious characters, both male and female. Early in the demo, Nikki meets Dada and her younger sister Bebe, who invite her to join them in the Florawish Stylists Guild. The guild house is bedecked with beautiful decor, every member impeccably dressed. Meanwhile, Giovanni, a local crafter of wishing items, is softly handsome, like he stepped directly from an otome dating game. Once registered with the guild, Nikki, now a full-fledged stylist, receives a Pair Pal tablet, which is essentially her Sheikah slate, from which you can enter your nickname, check Nikki's stylist level, adjust her wardrobe, and track quests and crafting ingredients, while the map is marked with useful icons. All in all, it's a set of immediately approachable and useful tools. Similarly, the game offers various options to aid exploration, such as a bicycle rental shop, and if you can find it, a giant bird that you can ride as it flies a predetermined loop around the map. Infinity Nikki's dungeons do offer a fair degree of challenge. An early dungeon I played saw Nikki traversing the Dream Warehouse, a magical building with thousands of discarded paper cranes dotted all over the place, each representing a wish cast by the hopeful villagers of Florawish. The warehouse has now been overrun by monsters, which Nikki must purify. The origami papercraft motif continues as you begin platforming across giant paper cranes, which seesaw as Nikki clambers aboard their wings, making timing important. Nikki can also dash, which doubles as a dodge, and perform a ground pound type attack to defeat enemies or smash breakable objects. It's not the toughest platforming challenge in the world, but it's enough to keep you on your toes. The stage ends with Nikki riding on a massive paper crane that soars ever higher over a stunning skyscape to the soundtrack of a song with lyrics about reaching new heights, a dizzying reward for your efforts so far. I played an offline demo, but the game will eventually include online features. The details of the online gameplay are still TBC, but the developers explained it will be a solo-focused game where everyone plays as Nikki, but with community aspects. There is an innocent charm to Infinity Nikki. The protagonist is endlessly cheerful, constantly bigging up the characters around her with "you got this" pep talk. When her feline friend Momo pulls out a camera to introduce photo mode, Nikki tells him, "You look like a professional photographer," a refreshing show of positivity and enthusiasm that is infectious. Incidentally, the photo mode is excellent, perfectly tailored to such a fashion-focused game and packed with features. Photo mode alone could occupy you for hours, as you have Nikki switch between outfits against a picturesque backdrop of luscious hills and sparkling streams, and pose for the camera with a bouquet of flowers, lounging on a bench, or making a heart shape with her hands. Mirrorland's locations are filled with wonder, its atmosphere endlessly engaging. The game is dripping in detailed fashion, rich animations, and watercolor concept art, while its mechanics are surprisingly deep and interesting. I was also surprised to find myself drawn into the story, in which an ancient battle between gods and demons has given rise to a centuries-old society of stylists. It's certainly unique. I have to say, I never knew dressing up could be...
This city is a miracle of progress. A finely tuned, delicately balanced machine. But it only takes one rebellious little gear to ruin everything. If you resist my rule, if you alter our past, if you threaten what I have built, there is nowhere in space or time where I will not destroy you.
Oh no. What did I do?
Any last words before my friend puts one in your scalp?
Bones. Been a while. So, you remember that favor you owe me? I'm looking for a creature. Huge, sneaky, teeth like knives.
No? Well, hey, how about you guys? No? Nobody? Not helpful. Mm-hmm. Sneaky.
Let me tell you what you are missing, Dr. Jones. While you were playing your pointless game, I was playing you. You're wondering if maybe you should have built yourself a life of meaning instead of ending up here, dead and forgotten in the sense of Africa.
Myths. History. Just different ways to interpret the past. Thousands of years of humanity's thoughts and beliefs, scattered and buried. Just waiting to be found.
You can't just run away from your problems, Indiana.
Watch me. Throughout history, mankind has built sites of great spiritual significance. If you were to draw a line through these ancient sites around the globe, you get a perfectly aligned circle. I've had run-ins with these guys before. Trust me, it ain't a walk in the park.
Okay, then. Let's see if you can keep up.
What do you mean if I could keep up? Patron of the fallen angels. Protector of the Chukulimani. The Great Circle. You have any idea how old that was?
Our world has a rhythm. We all sense it. But only a few truly feel it. It is found in the smallest moments. In every step of a perilous journey. In the symmetry of ritual. In the bonds we share. And in moments of stillness. It teaches us to look beyond the expected. To be a light in dark places. To seek answers. And to stand watch over our world. Our world has a rhythm. We all sense it. But only a few truly feel it.
This is the same fate that the Aguirre would have met if he had opposed me.
Take the fight to Sarkul.